Welcome back to the Game Corner. Now, with 3 critically acclaimed titles in the Nintendo Entertainment System, countless amounts of merchandise including 2 television shows for young children, as well as a ton of toys, and an eager fan base for more Mario games, Nintendo was hard at work at providing the next best experience for Mario fans. Now, before we get to the last game in this series on the home console, Super Mario World, I thought it'd be a good idea to look at the first 2 handheld games, Super Mario Land and Super Mario Land 2. Now, among Mario fans at least, they're not necessarily critically acclaimed as, say, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, or Super Mario Galaxy, but whenever they're brought up, there isn't really much negativity. So, before we go on to Super Mario World, I thought it'd be a good idea to just look at these 2 games and see how they overall impact Mario's critical acclaim and reputation, and see if they're worth playing today.
To begin with, let me show you this. This is the Nintendo Game Boy. Yeah, in addition to being an electronic brick, it was also Nintendo's first cartridge-based handheld. There had been things like the Game & Watch prior to the Game Boy, but the Game Boy was more about attempting to bring the console experience wherever you went. It was designed by the late Gunpei Yokoi, who also helped to create the Metroid series. Speaking of Yokoi, he was also the producer of this game, and not Miyamoto. As far as I know, this is one of the few Mario games that Miyamoto wasn't involved in. Super Mario Land launched in 1989 alongside the Game Boy, and was initially going to be the packing game, but it was replaced by Tetris because it would appeal to a bigger audience. But regardless, how does the game hold up today? As always, we begin with the story. There exists another land like the Mushroom Kingdom known as Sarasa Land. It is in this land that a space fiend named Tonga invades, hypnotizes its people, and captures Princess Daisy. Yes, Super Mario Land is the first game to introduce Daisy. Anyways, it's up to Mario to travel through the 4 kingdoms and rescue Princess Daisy. Compared to the last 4 games, the graphics take a huge step back. I'd say of all the Mario games, this is by far the worst looking one. But to be fair, its graphical style should be forgiven to some extent, as this was a launch title and the developers didn't know how much the Game Boy was capable of. But compared to future Game Boy games such as its sequel, it's definitely inferior to those titles. But looks aren't everything. How does the game play? In short, awkwardly. When moving, Mario has a lot of forward momentum, so it can catch you off guard, especially in later stages where there is very little room to land. After a while though, you get used to it. But the biggest hurdle is Mario's drop speed. I don't know what he's been eating, but Mario drops like a ton. Seriously, he goes from 0 to 100 in a split second. Overall, the controls take some time getting used to, but they do what's needed of them. The game doesn't introduce anything new in terms of power-ups, but there is a bit of an exception to that. While there is still mushrooms that make Mario bigger and the Star Man that makes Mario invincible, as well as plays some of Orpheus in the Underworld by Offenbach, seriously, what is it with Mario and classical music? The opening Donkey Kong Jr. plays Takanga and Folk in D minor by Bach, and Mario Brothers has a bit of Mozart's Ein klein nach, whatever you call this. Well, instead of 1-ups, this game is hearts because the game was designed for a black and white screen, and the mushrooms would have been almost indistinguishable from one another. But the newest power-up is what I like to call the ball flower. This flower allows Mario to shoot not fire, but balls at enemies. To be fair though, it acts like the fire flower, but in my opinion it's weaker because you can only shoot one projectile, and if you miss, you have to wait for a few seconds before you can shoot again. And on top of that, some enemies require multiple hits of the ball flower to go down. While you need to take on the fire power-up, I'd much rather take the fire and ice flowers. Now let's look at the enemies. The only real returning enemy to my knowledge is the Goomba, which is called a Chibi-Bo, and it's very small in this game. New to the series are Nokobone, Pakun flowers, Pom-Pom flowers, Kumo, Toko Toko, Neolian, Bataton, Mekabon, Su, Geo, Yarian, Torton, Honon, Guineon, Tameo, Fly, Bun Bun, Gira, Rakaton, Pyonpi, and chickens. If you're a little confused by some of these names, that's because the enemies are being named by their original Japanese terms. Most of these enemies are just like normal animals, like seahorses. And the Koopa Troopas basically have bombs on their shells, and they explode when you hit them. I couldn't tell you why Nintendo didn't entirely translate the names, but moving on. The game is set up into 4 worlds with 3 levels each, meaning that this game has a total of 12 levels, and that may make this game the shortest in the series. In many ways, this game feels like the original Super Mario Bros., but downgraded to fit on the Game Boy. For instance, you can move forward in a level, but not back, and when you get hit with the ball flower on, you revert back to Small Mario. Coming from Mario 2 and 3 to this game can take some adjusting, and if I'm being honest, this game could have used the ability to move backwards, but this feature could have been omitted for budgetary or production purposes, as well as the fact that the development teams were figuring out how to make games for the system. Anyways, what makes this game so unique is that it uses real-life locations as the basis for its worlds. World 1, Birabuto, is based around ancient Egypt. World 2, Muda, is possibly based around the lost continent called Mu, or the island of Bermuda. World 3, Easton, is based off of Easter Island, as you probably could tell by some of the enemies that look like Easter egg heads. And finally there is Chai, which is based off of Asia, specifically China. Just like in Super Mario Bros., each world ends with a boss, but each is completely different in this game. The first boss is King Totometsu, who is somewhat based off of a sphinx. The second is a giant seahorse, the third is Hiohoi, who is a giant Easter egg head, and the final boss is Tatanka himself. In terms of level design, it's a standard formula up to this point, but at the end of a stage, Mario has the option to take two exits. One will lead him to the next stage, but the other will lead him to a bonus stage where you can try to gain more lives or a ball flower. But new to this game, and only in this game, are shooting stages. In these two stages, Mario fires torpedoes or plane ammunition at enemies with A or B, and the D-pad allows Mario to go up or down or side to side. For a game that to me felt somewhat lackluster in terms of its platforming, this definitely adds some more flavor to the whole experience. But now back to the bosses. After defeating the first three bosses, you encounter Daisy, who turns into an enemy, letting you know that there's more to come and another world ahead. But after defeating Tatanka, Mario rescues the real Daisy, and they fly off in Mario's ship, ending the game. Finally, let's talk about the music. For being an early Game Boy game, this soundtrack, while limited, is one of my favorite aspects of this game. My favorite themes include the overworld theme, the second overworld theme, underground theme, flying stage theme, and by far my favorite in the game, Tri Kingdom 1 and 2. I wish that these themes would be used more often in either newer games or remakes for Smash Bros., but I still enjoyed the original tunes. Overall, while Super Mario Land is very limited and could have had less sensitive controls, I still had fun and the soundtrack will still resonate with me. If you're interested, play for a bit and see what you think. I would love to see a remake of this game someday. With one game down, it's time to look at Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. Now to those of you who know your Mario games, this game actually released a year after Super Mario World in 1992. You may wonder why I decided to look at this game before Mario World, and that's mainly because it's a shorter game and it fits better to review both games together than apart. And I felt that reviewing this game last would be a little anticlimactic. Anyways, let's get this plot out of the way. While the events of the last game were happening, a sinister villain who will be unnamed for now infiltrates the land known as Mario Land. I mean, all those coins had to go somewhere. This villain hypnotizes the inhabitants and in the process hides 6 golden coins to prevent Mario from getting to his castle. It's up to Mario to return to his land, find the 6 golden coins, and defeat the sinister foe. In terms of graphics, oh my. Mario Land 2 is one of the best looking games on the Game Boy. It looks so good that it could even compete with the NES at some points. The sprites are bigger and more distinguishable, Mario looks very much like his NES and SNES counterparts, and the game just overall looks more like a Mario game. I'll probably bring this up again at some point in the future, but I consider this game to be part of the big 3 games for the Game Boy, the other 2 being Metroid 2 and Link's Awakening. What amazes me about all of these games is the way they were able to provide console-worthy experiences on the go and add a unique twist to the established formulas of each series. As for Mario Land 2, think of it as sort of a portable version of Mario World. However, that's not to say this game is exactly like Mario World, because there are plenty of differences. The controls were heavily improved. Mario feels less weighted and I feel I have more control over him than before. In addition to moving left and right and down pipes, Mario can now move upwards through pipes and can now destroy blocks by doing a spin jump. There are also stages where Mario has to swim like in the first and third games, and even stages where Mario is in space, years before Mario Galaxy. Suffice it to say, the controls of this game are on par with Mario 3 and Mario World in my book. One of the best features of this game is being able to choose which levels you play. Now Mario 3 and World had a mentality to this, but Mario Land 2 is defined by it. I can choose what levels to play or not play because not all of them are required, it's just required to get all of the golden coins. This style of progression makes the game much more replayable as I can go in whatever direction I want in succeeding playthroughs. Levels end like in the last game, there are 2 exits, with the higher one resulting in a mini-game. But near to the levels are checkpoint bells, which save your progress in the stage so when you die, you restart at the checkpoint. The original Mario Bros. And Lost levels also had this, but not every stage had them, so I'd say this is a welcome addition. Power-ups are again pretty standard. There are still the mushrooms, fire flowers, and stars, which look much more like the SNES versions of them, but there is one new power-up in the form of the carrot. By grabbing this item, Mario grows bunny ears and is able to glide slowly through the air by pressing A quickly and consistently. Of the flying and gliding power-ups, this is by far one of my favorites, next to the raccoon leaf, feather, and wing cap. The carrot helps to readjust and save you from pits or spikes. Now let's move on to the enemies. There are many more traditional enemies like the Goomba, Koopa Troopa, and Piranha Plant, but there are many new enemies, mainly in specific regions of Mario Land. For example, in the Tree Land, the enemies are mostly ants and other types of bugs, and in space they are usually natural hazards, these pig cannon things, and some stars. And in the Halloween theme section, they're all based off of Halloween phenomena, like the Boos or these Jason Voorhees Goombas, or I don't know. But like before, these enemies are more or less defending the bosses of each world. As stated before, the main goal of this game is to retrieve the 6 golden coins from each of the bosses. The bosses are this giant bird, Tatonga, but I beat you in the last game. Well, no big deal, he's incredibly easy to beat. In fact, most of these bosses are pretty easy to beat. The only one I really had some difficulty with were the 3 little pigs. Yes, Mario fights the 3 little pigs. Well, the last 3 are this octopus, a witch, and a needle-nosed rat. After retrieving all of the coins, you now have access to the castle and can make your way up to the final boss. This castle can actually get pretty challenging, seriously, like this part right here, it gives me so much difficulty every time. But after all of that and killing a few floating balls or balloonies, you come face to face with Wario? Yep, Wario, making his first debut in this game, and as a villain. Well, like all of the bosses, he's pretty simple and easy. He has 3 modes, one normal, the next with bunny ears, and the final with the fire flower. He seems kind of intimidating, but his gargantuan form makes him an easy target. After 3 pops to the head in each form, he's out, and Mario reclaims his castle along with the rolling of the credits. Real quick, let's talk about the music. Mario Land 2 does a similar thing to Mario World, where it remixes its main melody to be faster or slower depending on the level. My personal favorites are this athletic rendition of the main theme, the second space theme, and the ending theme. While I'd say I like the first Mario Land's music a little more, the soundtrack here still resonates with me. As a whole, Mario Land 2 doesn't just improve upon Mario Land, it destroys it by being much more playable, graphically appealing, and just feeling more like a Mario game. In conclusion, while they may both be Game Boy games, each takes a unique spin on the Mario formula and shows what is capable of being accomplished on inferior hardware. Would I recommend them today? Yes and no. While they are easy to pick up and play today, their limitations compared to their predecessors and successors may seem jarring. Personally, I would recommend the color-enhanced ROMs of these titles, either on an emulator or on a reproduction cart. I think these are much more appealing and make the games feel more like Mario games. But in the end, no matter how you play them, they are simple and enjoyable games.
6 games done and over with. But now it's time to move on to the 7th and final one for this series review. And of course, Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you in the next video. Woo! It's raining games. These games.